Fire has always been one of humanity's most primal fears. It represents both life and death, warmth and destruction, creation and annihilation. Since the earliest days of our existence, fire has been something we've both depended on and feared. It's a powerful force that can bring people together in comfort, but it can also tear families apart, leaving behind devastation and despair. The fear of fire is not just a physical reaction. It runs much deeper. It manifests in our dreams, in our nightmares, and in our psyche. It shapes the way we approach risk, our understanding of control, and our deepest anxieties. But why does fire, more than any other natural force, inspire such intense fear? To understand the psychological power of fire, we must first acknowledge its dual nature. Fire is both a symbol of life and a symbol of destruction. It creates warmth and light, two essential elements for human survival. But it also has the power to destroy everything in its path: homes, crops, forests, and lives. This balance between creation and destruction lies at the heart of our fear. Fire reminds us of our vulnerability. It forces us to confront our mortality. Our earliest ancestors knew fire as a tool for survival. It was a way to cook food, to keep animals at bay, and to provide warmth in cold climates. But fire was also a danger, something that could quickly spiral out of control. The same flame that cooked their food could burn down their shelter. The same spark that warded off predators could ignite a wildfire that consumed everything in its path. For our ancestors, fire was a constant reminder of their fragility. This primal fear of fire has been passed down through generations, shaping our collective unconscious. Today, fire still holds the same power over us. Even in the modern world, where we've learned to control fire, we remain wary of its potential for destruction. This fear of fire has a profound impact on our dreams and nightmares. Fire often appears in our dreams as a symbol of both danger and desire. It can represent a fear of losing control or the fear of facing something in our waking life that seems just out of reach. For some, fire in a dream may symbolize anger or frustration, emotions that have been repressed and are now boiling over. For others, it may represent a sense of power or transformation, a force that can burn away the past and create something new. But it's not always so simple. The dream of fire can evoke intense fear, even when it's not connected to a specific trauma or event. This is because fire, in its most elemental form, is a force we cannot control. In our dreams, it can represent the unknown, a fear of the uncontrollable forces in our lives, whether they be personal, emotional, or external. In nightmares, fire often symbolizes destruction and loss. The flames may represent an overwhelming threat that we can't escape. In these dreams, fire consumes everything in its path, just as our fears consume us. The dreamer may feel helpless, unable to stop the fire from spreading, much like how we feel when we face a real-life crisis that feels beyond our control. But not all fire dreams are terrifying. In some instances, fire may represent a transformative experience. In these dreams, the fire acts as a cleansing force, burning away the old and making way for the new. These dreams may signify personal growth, the release of old habits, or the start of a new chapter in life. The dreamer may emerge from the fire, reborn and stronger than before. But even in these dreams, the fire is still dangerous. It can still destroy if left unchecked. In many cultures, fire is seen as a symbol of purification. In rituals, fire is used to cleanse or sanctify. In some beliefs, fire represents the divine presence. This spiritual connection to fire is present in many ancient traditions, and it has permeated our subconscious minds. Fire is both a destroyer and a purifier. It strips away the unnecessary, leaving behind what is essential. The power of fire in our dreams speaks to a deeper, more personal fear, the fear of losing control. We may fear fire because it represents the things in our lives that are beyond our control. Whether it's our emotions, our relationships, or the uncertainties of life, fire in our dreams may represent those forces that we feel helpless against. In some cases, fire represents our subconscious desire for transformation. Just as fire can destroy the old, it can also make way for new growth. But transformation often requires letting go of something, whether it's a toxic relationship, an old identity, or a past trauma. Fire, in this sense, can be both terrifying and liberating. But what is the psychological impact of these fears? How do they shape us as individuals? Our fear of fire forces us to confront the deeper aspects of ourselves. It forces us to ask questions about control, power, and vulnerability. It challenges us to understand the balance between creation and destruction, between light and dark. Fire represents the emotional extremes we all experience, the highs of passion and the lows of fear. It is a force we must respect, a force that holds both danger and potential within it. As we delve deeper into the psychological impact of the fear of fire, it's clear that this primal fear doesn't just linger in our dreams. It influences how we live, how we interact with others, and how we face life's challenges. Fire, in its most elemental form, represents both the destruction we fear and the transformation we desire. But how does this fear shape our day-to-day lives? For many people, the fear of fire manifests in anxiety or avoidance. It can dictate what we do, where we go, and even how we think about the world around us. A person who has experienced a fire, whether a house fire, a wildfire, or even a traumatic event involving fire, might carry that fear with them for the rest of their lives. Even if the fire is no longer physically present, the psychological scars remain, often influencing their behavior and emotional well-being. Take Emily, for example. A survivor of a house fire when she was just 10 years old, Emily has carried the fear of fire with her for nearly 2 decades. I don't think I realized how much it affected me until much later in life, she admits. I couldn't watch any movie or TV show with fire in it. I would panic, even if it was a small flame on the screen. I couldn't even stand candles on my birthday cake. I'd feel like I was suffocating, even though I knew I was safe. Emily's experience is not uncommon. The fear of fire, especially for those who have witnessed its destructive power firsthand, can shape a person's life in profound ways. It can manifest as a constant undercurrent of anxiety, or it can be a crippling phobia that limits one's ability to function in everyday situations. The emotional toll of fire-related trauma is often underestimated. Survivors may struggle with PTSD, depression, and heightened stress responses. In Emily's case, the fear was so overwhelming that it became a constant barrier to living a full, unimpeded life. However, not all who fear fire are driven by past trauma. For some, the fear is rooted in a general sense of helplessness. Fire, as we've discussed, is unpredictable. It doesn't care about plans, intentions, or actions. It can change course in an instant, and when it does, it can take everything with it. This fear of fire is rooted in the fear of losing control. The very nature of fire represents the unknown. It forces us to confront our lack of control over certain aspects of life. We can plan, we can prepare, but sometimes the world can burn around us in the blink of an eye. For others, the fear of fire may come from the emotional extremes it represents. Fire is often used as a metaphor for intense emotions, passion, anger, love, desire. These are the emotions that can consume us, that can take over our lives and destroy everything in their wake. The fear of fire, then, may also be the fear of being consumed by our own emotions. We fear the flames because we fear the power they hold over us. We fear losing ourselves in the heat of the moment. But this fear can be healing too. As much as fire represents destruction, it also represents renewal. The same force that burns away the old can create new growth. This is where the healing process begins, in understanding that fire doesn't just consume, it transforms. For Emily, the journey to recovery began when she learned to confront her fear, not by avoiding it, but by embracing it. She started by lighting a candle in her home just to prove to herself that she could. Slowly, she grew more comfortable with fire in small doses. She began to understand that the flames, while dangerous, didn't have to be her enemy. This process of confronting and understanding fire, both in the physical and emotional sense, is key to overcoming the fear it instills. Facing fear head-on isn't easy. It takes time, patience, and often professional help. Therapy, particularly exposure therapy, is one way that many people are able to work through their trauma and fear. The goal is not to eliminate the fear completely, but to help the person regain control over their emotional and physical response. In some cases, healing comes from understanding the deeper meanings behind the fear of fire. For example, in certain spiritual or philosophical traditions, fire represents the purification of the soul. In Buddhism, fire is seen as a cleansing force, burning away ignorance, hatred, and attachment. In this context, the fear of fire can be reframed as the fear of confronting and letting go of the things that hold us back in life, fear, anger, and unresolved pain. This approach shifts the narrative. Fire, instead of being something to fear, becomes something to understand and integrate into our lives. It's about embracing the heat of life, knowing that sometimes it takes a little burning to create new growth. For those who fear fire, this transformation is a powerful process. It's about reclaiming control over something that once felt uncontrollable. It's about using fire not as a destructive force, but as a symbol of personal strength, resilience, and rebirth. The fire within, the fear, the desire, the passion, no longer has to consume them. Instead, it can fuel their growth. As we face the flames of our fears, we begin to understand that fire is not just a force of destruction. It is also a force of creation. It's the spark that ignites change. It's the flame that lights our path in the darkest times. And when we stop running from it, we realize that we don't just survive the fire. We rise from it, stronger, wiser, and more capable of facing the challenges ahead.